One more thing I gotta get popped up.
Okay.
That's the thing I needed to pop up before it on the other screen.
Wait, can you see Discord? Can you like see the can you actually see the Discord call?
Uh, I see it says playing recordings.
Oh, that's just when I open up my recording thing.
Okay, I
It's
see down
it's
in the corner, voice connected.
okay. Yeah, no, I was just making sure you could actually see like the whole thing page. You might want to put like Discord onto like another like a window by itself.
It is on its own window.
Okay. Yeah, then it should. That's all.
Yeah.
I was gonna tell you it actually worked on my favorite. You said 11:30 because I'm like I'm not home yet. That actually worked perfectly.
Oh, I had to make sure that the potatoes were completely done because I have a habit lately of making crunchy potatoes in potato salad. So,
Okay. I think it's funny. My one screen every time you make a sound, it goes with sound or the mouse. So every time you talk, my one screen just lights up.
that's cool. I bet you anything if I hit this voice connected thing, it might do too. Nope.
No, you're connected.
I know I'm connected. I want to do the same thing you're doing.
You can't. You can't. That's my wallpaper.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Um, can you do noise suppression?
I don't know what that means.
The three little lines next to it that have like a line through the center.
No, I don't
Okay.
see anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have anything I can do that with.
Okay.
Are you able to hear me fine?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly fine.
Okay.
And the recording software can actually pick you up too, so that's what's the big thing I wanted to make sure of.
Okay. Hey friends, this is Casey, and and this is Let's Tell Their Story. I've actually got a guest on today. His name is Quentin, and he is a podcast host of
Soundwave of horror.
Soundwave of Horror. Quentin, why don't you tell them a little bit about your podcast, and then we'll come back to today's story.
It is a podcast about horror stories that will actually make you scared of what goes bump in the night.
Maybe I should start listening to that, considering you are my kid. By the way, everybody, Quentin is my son, so if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be able to do this podcast. Honestly, he's been a lifesaver on more than one way.
I
So,
don't I don't know anything about this one. I didn't give the option of this one. This was something you did all by yourself. I just know where the location
yeah,
is.
yeah, that was all I gave him was location. He wasn't allowed to look anything up other than that. Like I've said before, in the United States, over the last 40 years, there's been over 200,000 cases that have gone unsolved. The purpose of doing the podcast is to basically get the stories up and warmed back up considering they're cold cases, whether they're missing persons, unsolved murders, or unsolved suspicious deaths. And I go through as much research as I can. And so today's story is about a 2-year-old named Dior Coons. And he went missing on July 10th, 2015, in Timber Creek Campground in Salmon Chalice National Forest, which is in Idaho. Which, Quentin, you are already aware because I made you look at that up.
Yeah, it's near Gunsight Peak, between Gunsight Peak and Lebanon Hill. are the two major
Okay.
points.
Okay. So the people that are involved in this are Jessica Mitchell, who is Dior's mom, Vernal Dior Coons, who is Dior's dad, little Dior's great grandfather, Robert Walton, who is Jessica's grandfather, and Robert, who goes by Bob's uh, friend that he'd known for about 5 years, whose name is Isaac. Uh, Give me a second because I lost his last name. Oh, Isaac Rainwand. So basically, this starts out the family goes camping for a weekend. It's supposed to be a fun camp trip. Jessica has had a history of not keeping a job, and Vernal kind of wanted to celebrate that she's kept her caregiving job for over 6 months. Jessica happens to be Robert's caregiver, and Isaac happens to just be a friend of Bob's that he's known for about 5 years or so. Isaac plays a small but rather important part in this whole story. Um, they they take Jessica and Vernal's black truck. Remember black truck because it's very important later on. And Little Dior, they take the truck where Bob gets his blazer and they go and they pick Isaac up. Isaac has never met Little Dior, Vernal, or Jessica. And this is going to be their first time. So they head on up to Timber Creek Campground. The other reason behind just Jessica celebrating her 6 months is Bob's health was failing. He was in his later 70s and on oxygen. And he was wanted to basically enjoy the same pastime that he used to when he was younger with his granddaughter Jessica. So when they finally get up there, Isaac, he sets up his tent. Bob's got his camper, and the other three are planning on sleeping in the back of Bob's blazer.
How on the earth did they get a
Clinton,
camper up that?
I'm assuming it's a smaller camper.
Because I'm looking at.
You and I have both done camping in our past, but we've kind of gotten luxury camping.
Yeah, but I'm looking at like the style, and it's like, how do you even get a camper through there?
I'm not sure.
And by the way, I think there is two campgrounds that are like little over a mile apart. They're called Timber Creek Campground and Upper Timber Creek Campground, and that is like the one thing nobody could figure out which campground it was for some reason. You said.
Well, I'm not sure, but I don't really understand Google Earth and Google Maps because I'm old-ish.
So, and you say he was on an oxygen tank, right?
Right.
That those two things are like little over almost 8, like close to being like 7,500 feet in the air.
Well, he's probably the only one that's got oxygen.
Because that is really
Sorry.
tall. Because like the highest point near here is those hills I said earlier, which are like almost 10,000 feet in the air.
Right. What we've done camping since you've been camping since you were little.
Yeah.
What's one of the first things that we'd do when we'd go camping? We'd get there, we'd set up, and
Yeah.
then usually build a fire, just basically to prove that we're camping you guys like the marshmallows and the s'mores and stuff, but we knew I wasn't going to touch the marshmallow stuff.
Yeah, you don't like marshmallows.
No, I don't. And then they all went to bed. So next morning, they all woke up and the group ate breakfast of eggs, sausage, and hash browns. And little Dior, he was clumping around in cowboy boots that were about two sizes too big. And he was throwing things in the fire. And his dad, Vernal, did get after him about it. You've got little brothers. They love their cowboy boots, and
Yes.
so you know what a 2-year-old means when they're clumping around in cowboy boots that are too big for them, right? Well,
Yeah.
so they get done with breakfast, and Isaac he goes back to his tent and lays down. He must be not a morning person because he goes back and he stays asleep till about noon. When he woke up, Jessica, Vernal, and little Dior they were heading into town.
Oh,
According to
town is about a little over 8 miles away.
okay,
It's
so
that's a straight shot.
yeah. See, I made you do all the geographical stuff. So anyway, so according to Isaac, they were going into town to see if they could get gas. But there was also speculation, and I heard on Crime Weekly that Jessica had gotten her period and she didn't have any feminine products with. So, and considering it was a last minute trip, she probably
Here's
didn't bring anything with before
here's
it.
the one here's the one thing I don't see a single. Oh wait, is this a gas station? I don't know if this is. I don't even know if there's a gas station in this town. Like Lebanon. Like I don't see a gas station. Like I'm zoomed.
Um,
It may
oh,
there may This may be a gas
yeah,
station.
I come across the name and I didn't write it down in my notes. Figure. The one thing that you asked me for, I don't have written down.
Could it be any chance? Could it be Lemmy? Lemmy? No, that's
Yeah. Well, it could probably is
yeah.
Lemmy because of that's the
That's the
sheriff's
gas station.
department that's involved.
Yeah, that's the gas. That's like the gas station. There's only that's like how far is that gas station from there? Hold on, give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna do a quick um measurement. That is over 30. Wait, what? How big? How long did it take them to get to the gas station?
And it was probably about 30 minutes. They were gone for about an hour.
Yeah, it's about 23 miles away.
Yeah.
And that's straight shot. That's not like taking any roads in consideration.
Right. And terrain's not the greatest going up to that campground.
No, it's like yeah, you're going downhill a lot to get down there. Like you're going from like basically 76,000 feet down to like you're dropping like almost 100 feet to in like matter of like a few moments
Oh, wow.
to get.
So, gotta find my mouse back on one of these screens.
Yeah, because the town that the Lebanon thing, there's like no gas station there. And that's only 8 miles.
There it is. Okay, so anyway, well, there you've got an idea of which gas station they went to. It was obviously in Lemmy. So while those three were gone, Bob had taken Isaac around the campsite. There was different fishing holes, and Isaac seemed to be really into fishing. Isaac is from the interviews I've watched with Isaac, he is on the slower side, but one of those slower but means well, always willing to help out. Um, and then when the three got back, this is where things start. The story gets really unclear, and it keeps getting unclear from here on out.
Uh-oh.
So Isaac took was going to take Jessica down to one of these fishing spots, and according to Isaac, he assumed that Vernal and little Dior were right behind them. And we both know, as well as probably anybody else out there listening, that 2-year-olds don't move fast, but they move quicker than we want them. When they don't move fast when we want them to, but then the next thing you know, they're moving a lot quicker than they should.
I'm a rocket.
Pretty much. Um, so according to Isaac, all four of them went to the fish. Were headed to the fishing hole. According to Jessica, she had asked Bob to watch Dior, and Vernal says that he had spotted minnows at one of the fishing holes and went back to get Dior because he thought Dior would get a kick out of these minnows. Okay, now Bob's on oxygen and he's in his late 70s. Jessica's his caregiver. I personally wouldn't be leaving my 2-year-old with someone in that condition. But to each their own. Oh, half an hour or so goes by, and everyone's around the campsite except for Isaac because he was still fishing. And they notice that Dior is missing. The only things that's left from Dior is his blanket that he never went anywhere without, his sippy cup that he went nowhere without, and his little toy monkey that he went nowhere without.
Yikes.
Okay. So they're all in a panic, and they start looking underneath. They're looking in the camper, under the vehicles. Jessica's in the nearby sage. She looks through the nearby sagebrush. That is when Jessica, her first phone call is to her mom, and she's freaking out. And the signal's not so great up on the mountain. So Jessica stays there, and Vernal decides to take his truck down a little ways down the mountain to call 911. I actually have the 911 call.
Oh.
I'm going to play it.
Give me...
I'm on top of things today.
I'm legitimately trying to figure out how deep this reservoir is. The stone reservoir where they were.
Wants to make.
What's the address of your emergency?
Oh. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Are you able to hear that little bit?
Yeah, I was able
because
to
I'm
hear
not
it.
sure if this is actually...
Yeah.
Okay. All right, here we go.
I'm actually camping in Ledwar. Just outside of Ledwar. Uh-huh. My 2-year-old son, we can't find him.
You can hear Jessica Mitchell's voice trembling.
How long has he been missing? About an hour. Yeah.
The last place family says they saw Dior Kuntz Jr. was a campground 10 miles west of Ledwar after being put on hold.
Jessica? Yeah. Okay. What is he wearing? He was wearing cowboy boots, a blue, pair like pajama pants, and a camel jacket.
The dispatcher asks for a description of the toddler.
How tall is he? Hello? I'm not exactly sure how. He's about. What's your name? Arnold? Are you there? Yeah. Okay. Is your husband calling too? Like, all down where we were camping at, and we can't find him at all.
Then dispatch gives the mother instructions.
Okay, we need you to stay within cell service. We've got people going on the way. Thank you. Now the
Okay. I'm pretty sure that when you and your brothers were even out of my sight when you were kids, I was not that calm. I think that she's way too calm to be a panicked mother. But that's just my speculation.
Okay, I did find the answer I was looking for. I was looking for how deep the stone reservoir was. Its average deep depth is 16 feet, but the max depth is 55.
Okay. And the creek that they were fishing out of that's down below the campground isn't really much deeper than knee high, but most 2, almost 3-year-olds are about knee high.
Yeah.
So the end of that 911 call, they were sending out a search party, and there was a search party immediately organized with authorities, and for the next 2 weeks, the Timber Creek campground efforts were exhausted, combing through the campground, but the only sign of Dior was the blanket, sippy cup, and the toy monkey. When authorities asked the 4 adults the events of the day, all 4 of them had different stories, and none of their stories lined up with each other's. So, remember when I had said that Jessica had asked Bob to watch Dior? Bob said he was in his trailer relaxing, and he never remembered her asking him to watch Little Dior. And there's just a lot of back and forth between on what actually happened that day. And so the search party, they looked down the creek. They had divers. They checked the reservoir that you keep referring to.
And I just found what I was looking for.
Okay. And even today, Jessica and Vernal, their stories still keep changing to the public, and they really can't understand why the public doesn't believe them, that they didn't happen to have something to do with Dior's disappearance. And it is a disappearance, because I'm gonna let you know right now, he has yet to be found.
Okay, I just found out, like, I just looked at a Google map coveraging of this area that actually has AT&T, T-Mobile, US Cellular, and Verizon. The only one that really covers that area is US Cellular.
Okay.
Which isn't a very popular cell service.
No, it's really not.
So more than likely, they said they were having problems with. They either have T-Mobile or AT&T if they were not having good phone service and had to go to the top of the hill.
Right. Well, it sounds like Jessica stayed at the campsite, and Vernal's the one that went down the hill.
So yeah, maybe they both have different phone services.
I mean, these 2 aren't married, so it is very good possibility.
But yeah, it's like
yeah, but
yeah, because there's not much phone service for like voice that really right here. It's like a really dead zone.
according to Vernal, he only had 1 bar, so he wanted to go down where he wasn't trusting the 1 bar of service. So he basically said that it was just luck that Jessica got through. And then, so at this point, like, they've got the search parties and everything, and the stories aren't matching up. The public just basically starts assuming that Jessica and Vernal have something to do with Dior missing. And right away, the sheriff's department of Lemmy basically said that they weren't suspects or anything. At first, that does change. Um, that changes in January of 2016. They end up actually rising to the top of the sheriff's suspect list. And the family wants answers, obviously. They end up hiring
A PI probably.
he's a family friend that happens to be a private investigator.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, that just. Why would you ask a family friend to become a PI? Normally, you want to have somebody that's like the most
Unbiased.
Yes.
The most unbiased. You're like, I know the word, I just can't remember. I can't think of it. Yeah, the most unbiased person. Well, he basically offered his
Service.
assistance, service. Well, that word today, I couldn't spell it, and now I couldn't even say it. Yeah, he offered his services basically pro bono. And then he ends up actually writing a statement in September of 2015. I need to find my glasses because I'm having a hard time reading this.
Wait, how long did you say before they noticed he was gone?
It was like maybe an hour 45 minutes. Because everybody thought that Dior was with someone else. Like Isaac thought that Dior was with Vernal. The only ones we know where they were at was Jessica was with Isaac for a little time there.
Okay, so a 2-year-old to walk a mile takes like 20 minutes.
Right. So the private investigator, his name was Frank Vilt, and he ended up basically sending this to them. However, he ends up eventually putting this on social media, which is probably not the smartest move on his end. But I'm going to quote the letter that he sent. Dear Dior and Jessica. That Dior, because Vernal is Dior Sr. So, dear Dior and Jessica, as I previously informed you today via my text to your cellular telephone at 8:31 a.m., I am withdrawing from the investigation because of circumstances beyond my control, including but not limited to a breach of trust on your part concerning your refusal to allow me to take this case national. I am perplexed as to why you did not want me to advertise the $20,000 reward. I was willing to put up personal funds in the hopes that the public could provide information leading to the whereabouts of your son. When I agreed to assist you, I informed you that I would work for my out-of-pocket expenses. I was willing to forego my normal hourly rate. My stipulation was that both of you would be absolutely truthful. I told both you that if I felt that you were not telling the truth, stalling me, or otherwise misleading, that I would withdraw from the investigation. In my professional opinion, both of you lied and misrepresented the true facts that could solve the mystery of your missing son. There are other aspects of this case that I cannot go into at this time, but simply put, I believe that the searches will all be non-productive. The searches are only used by you to cover a possible crime that you or both of you may have committed. Emphasis added. My suggestion is that you fully cooperate with the Lemmy County Sheriff and tell the truth. I do not appreciate the fact that one or both of you are spreading rumors that you have paid me. I have not received reimbursement to cover my expenses. I also feel that you are exploiting the public for financial gain. How can you live with yourselves? Sooner or later, the truth will come out. That's the letter that he wrote to them and put on social media.
Okay. Quick question. How old are these two?
They're in there's not really a clear answer. They're more or less in their late 20s, early 30s.
So older than me.
They're older than you and younger than me.
Okay.
And then the other reason why he basically did that is, so Jessica and Vernal were both given polygraph tests. Tests. Not just a test. Tests.
But
There was multiple.
But polygraphs aren't like they're actually can't be withstood.
No, they can't be. Well, yeah, they can't actually be used like in a court because they're not 100% reliable. But Vernal ended up failing 5 of the tests, and Jessica failed 4 tests. And they passed when they were asked, like, is your name so and so? Is your name so and so? But where the polygraph would spike is when they were asked if they were going to be truthful with the questions regarding anything, and then when they'd be asked the whereabouts of their son, the not the private investigators. This case does end up going to the FBI. And it was FBI polygraphers that were giving these tests. And they said they've never seen someone fail so bad at these tests. And that to that extent of numbers of the tests being given. You sounded like you were going to say something.
No, I'm.
And then the other reason that the public, I don't know if it's so much the public, but the public in that area was aware that Jessica had older children, but her older children lived with their dad because she couldn't financially support them. Vernal was a truck driver, and Jessica's longest job, where she was just basically a caregiver for Bob. And it's not really that hard to be a caregiver. You just,
Weren't you one?
And when I was for 8 years. I loved doing it. It's just you got to have the right mentality to do it. And then COVID hit, and I just mentally can't do it anymore. That hit me hard. And the two of them were struggling financially. So the next thing really isn't that big of a surprise. So a number of items, including a toddler's camouflage jacket, were left behind in the residence that Vernal and Jessica had been evicted from for failing to pay rent in 2016. My notes are all over the place right now. I keep jumping ahead. I'm jumping ahead, and then I'm going back and jumping ahead, and yeah. And you've seen my script, so if I'm jumping back and forth, it's going to take me a bit to find where I'm at.
I'm just looking at Google Maps on like why I'm like trying to figure out why they picked that such a weird one, like Timber Creek. There's like other options too. Like Gunside Peak. Like Gunside
sounds like
Pike.
That was, but it sounds like it was one of the places that Bob used to camp when he was younger, and that was why he wanted to take Jessica up there.
Because I mean, there's like a lot of other like really good points. Like there is the big 8-mile campground, Gunsight Peak, Lebanon Hill, the Rocky Peak, Yellow Peak, Junction Peak, all like within like less than, and Sheephorn Peak, Okay, that was just creepy. I wasn't expecting to see a cemetery.
That is a little creepy.
It's Bannister Cemetery.
Ah.
Is Gilmore a town or is that just a location? I don't know what that is. Oh yeah, they're quite a ways away from Interstate 15. Like it is. Interstate 15 is like almost 40 miles away.
Oh, that is quite a ways. But it sounds like Timber Creek Campground was kind of where Bob would camp when he was younger, and that's why they went there.
It
'Cause
also
he
it also probably is for his own health too, because I'm pretty sure like oh yeah, all the other ones are really high peaks too. Like the other ones I said were like the only one that's not that bad would be Lebanon Hill, which is still is about a little over 8,000 feet in the air above sea level. This
see
is
that whole that I just know when you get high in the mountains, it's harder to breathe. That's all I know. You're kind of the science kid.
see this is where it gets kind of interesting because it's like a really weird part of the Rockies that they're in too.
Oh, that Frank Vilt wasn't the only private investigator that they had.
Oh, what was the other private investigator?
So the other private investigator, his name was Philip Klein, and he was out of KBI, Texas. And he reached out to the family because they didn't go public with this. Like it never went national or anything like that, as Frank said. And even Philip Klein, even kind of the same deduction deduction came to the same conclusion that Frank did, that he believes that Jessica and Vernal had something to do with it, or Bob, or even Isaac, even though Isaac didn't really show up until later because he seen Bob up looking up over everything, and he come up and Isaac's like, what's going on? And Bob's like, little man, because they called little Dior little man. He goes, little man's missing. And Isaac's like, what? Simple reaction that most people would like, what happened? So he reaches out to the family, offers to do this all no charge to the family. The family sets up a GoFundMe page, which ends up, they take the GoFundMe money and they use that for research and different services that the PI brings in. In 2019, Klein actually, he had a lady that had cadaver dogs that he trusted really a lot. And that in 2019, the cadaver dogs did come across remains with a small piece of bone. They send it to the sheriff's department in Lemmy, and that their sheriff's department, when their results came back, it was inconclusive. So they sent him off to the FBI, where the FBI determined that the remains that were found, they did not contain any human DNA.
So it was an old, really, really old skeleton because it may be like a Native American that was like over 1,000 years because DNA doesn't, it dies over a period of, if I remember right, over 1,000 years it would die off.
Okay, but it could have also been like an animal bone too.
Yeah, but either way, it's a really, really old bone because they said there was no DNA found.
Yeah, it didn't contain any human
Oh,
DNA.
that
It didn't
they really,
it didn't contain any human DNA. So I'm assuming that it was probably an animal bone. 'Cause in that area, it's, if I recall, it's bears and um it's one of the cats. I know it's not mountain lion because those aren't in that area. But there's something else.
cougars
Maybe.
because panthers.
No, as soon as you say it, I'll know what it is. I just can't think of the animal right at the moment.
Um, Not mountain lions, you said, which seems kind of weird because the mountain lions would probably be one of the high ones.
You would think, because there was speculation that little Dior was taken by an animal, but if he was taken by an animal, one,
Oh,
his boots
bobcat.
would have fallen. Bobcat. I knew it was a cat. I knew it was one of those big kitties.
Because the three that live in Idaho are mountain lion, the lynx, and a bobcat.
Okay. But if little Dior was taken by an animal, his boots would have fallen off. There would have been at least some sort of um, remnants of like his coat, his little camo coat that he was wearing. And when the search parties went through, they searched over 3 miles of the area, including the reservoir, the creek, and whatnot. And there was no signs other than his blanket, his sippy cup, and his little toy monkey were the only signs that Dior was ever on that mountain. So remember when they had gone into town?
Yeah.
So Philip Klein, he does all this. He starts basically from ground zero and starts re-interviewing people. The cashiers that were at the gas station, they never remembered seeing Dior with them. And then there was claims of a older gentleman that had a black Jeep that Jessica says was kind of eyeing. There's another lady that took her kids out on a walk, and the same guy happened to be going along, and she said that he was giving her kind of the same vibes. Well, he ended up being a friend of the gas station owner, and his alibi checked out, so he was off the suspect list pretty quick. And that's where Vernal's black truck, black Jeep. And then Vernal he'd heard it, but he never went back to say, hey, the kid that you seen, was he with me in this truck? There was something somewhere along the lines that someone had said that they had seen a guy in a black truck with a kid. Kid looks scared. Like I said, this story has got so many ups and downs. It's just crazy. So Klein starts from the beginning, works his way up. He comes to the same conclusion that the first private investigator comes to, that Frank Vilt, that he thinks that Vernal and Jessica had something to do with it. So Jessica and Vernal keep getting re-interviewed. Bob got interviewed at one point too, and they all started pointing the finger towards Isaac
Wasn't he
because
just
Isaac
sleeping?
what? No, because he was down at the fishing hole.
Oh yeah, wrong person.
No, I know you're right. Isaac was the one that was in the tent. He slept till around noon, right before Jessica Vernal and little Dior went to town to get either gas or feminine products. You caught up with me now?
Yes.
Okay, when they got back, then they all went down the fishing hole, or at least Isaac and Jessica did. Isaac had stayed down by the fishing hole while the 911 call was made, and then he comes up, and Bob's just kind of looking around because he obviously can't really do much searching when he's got the oxygen tank with him. He can only go so far. And he ends up basically pulling himself out. And like if you guys aren't going to be honest with me, I can't help. So, and then about where is that at? In there's Dior Vernal and his dad actually end up suing Klein in 2016. Okay, so that's the same year, but in September. So Klein is doing this investigating in beginning of the year, gets himself out, has been using the GoFundMe money to pay for expenses that need to be made, right? Then Dior and his dad sue Klein, saying that he put them in a financial strain and that he owes them $25,000 because that was the money that was put into the GoFundMe page. They end up losing the case because it wasn't really their money. It was money put in to help find Dior. So the judge basically said it wasn't your money to spend. It was money spent to be spent for what it was spent on. And as far as Klein, he was never given a dime out of the family's pocket to be their private investigator. He reached out to them because he was trying to get Dior's case nationalized, and Jessica and Vernal kept not letting that happen. So it kind of makes you wonder, did they have something to do with it? Okay, where are your thoughts right now?
My thoughts is still on trying to figure out if the kid just walked 2 miles.
There's no sign of him walking 2 miles.
But like, I just looked because there's the creek. Because thinking about it, if he started walking down, which direction would that be? Southwest. He would be following a creek, but there's like nothing. Like there is nothing down that creek. Like for all.
Yeah, but the terrain to get down, but the terrain from where they were camping to get down to the creek was even hard for the adults to get down. So getting a 2-year-old down with little legs and he's got cowboy boots on and they're two sizes too big.
I was thinking maybe he may have followed the creek that the middle.
Yeah, to get to, but Yeah, but he had to get to the creek first.
Looking at it, it's actually pretty simple. There's like a road that, because we don't know because they never to say if it's Timber Creek Campground or the Upper Timber
True.
Creek. Because if it's the upper one, it's legitimately just behind a few trees. That creek is.
The map I have up, it's not the upper one, it's the other one.
Yeah, but then all they would have to do is just walk up to that road and just take that one road straight down to the upper creek, and then the creek is right there. And it's not the first time
True.
a two-year-old has walked quite a distance. There was one kid, oh my god, in 1968 there was a kid that walked almost 45 miles to another town in like one night.
Oh, wow.
So, like, and he was only 3 when he did that. So,
Okay,
he did it
Dior would have
all.
been, yeah, Dior would have been 3 in December of that year, of
So,
2015.
and you said it was in July, so it means it would be pretty bright most of the day. So, and
True.
not having a compass, not knowing where you are, because I remember being a little kid and just waking up and go, wait, where are we?
Okay, I'm not trying to laugh, but I know exactly what you're talking. I know exactly which situation you're talking about.
Because then, like that, because most of it is actually that area. What I'm talking about is mostly all flat. Like it is a valley through.
Valley.
Yeah,
Okay.
because if you actually follow it, you get down to Big Creek Campground.
Well, the whole thing when I was looking this whole case up, I wasn't really looking at geographical areas.
You really didn't
That's
give
what
me an
you're.
odd. Yeah, you really didn't give me anything to go off of but
I know
geology.
I didn't.
So that's
Yeah, I
where
know.
I'm getting. That's where I'm getting, because going the opposite direction, going north, would actually, you would start going uphill, and that's huge. Those are like going into the mountains.
Oh, hey, you're gonna have to edit this, but I gotta go shut Pearl up.
Okay.
Quit. I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Why is it not connecting?
I can hear you. Wait. Was I'm thinking, or am I going wrong?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Probably answering and I can't hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Went to the bathroom and the earbuds decided to stop working, and I had to get them reconnect to the computer again. Okay, where were we at?
Me going on my theory of thinking he just walked somewhere and they just don't realize how far he walked.
Okay, I'm gonna throw your theory kind of not so much out the window, but so according to Isaac, they had a cooler. And I'm talking one of the coolers that you put food and ice and soda and stuff in.
Isn't that every cooler though?
Well, there's little coolers, there's big coolers, but I'm talking the hard cased coolers.
That doesn't narrow it down at all.
The kind we used to take camping.
Oh, so we're talking about like one that's like almost 4 feet long.
Or like 2 feet high and 2 feet long.
Okay.
Or a foot and a
So
half
many-
high. But you know which ones I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's like so many different
The hard,
coolers.
yeah, the hard case. Yeah, the hard case coolers.
I have 2 in my truck right now.
So according to Isaac, when they all got there that Friday night, there was a cooler. When they all left, the cooler is missing.
Oh.
Ah.
Wait, which way does the water? So could... Hold on, now I'm curious. There's like a small little reservoir thing of... Oh my god, where is that? Right there. That's wrong. Trying to get back to Google Earth. Sorry, I'm just following this middle forest timber creek. Because there's like a giant like lake that's near like, oh my god, how far away is that? That distance is... That's not short distance at all. That... There's like a...
Oh, so
like that the creek goes for about 3.8 miles. There's like a
yeah.
there's a reservoir of water that's between two giant hills.
And the
Did
search
anybody...
parties, they've searched all of that, and they've searched like every year. They'll have a big search party, and then they'll break down into smaller search parties. They've done this every year since 2015.
Okay, so that...
So yeah,
that's a quite a distance away, 3 miles. But it's like right where the river runs off to.
right.
Because I'm looking at like
And
the
then
geography.
there's speculation that somebody was up top looking down, and when Bob wasn't paying attention and the other three were fishing, someone came and abducted little Dior. I just don't see how that's possible. Like you can see
you would break your leg going down those hills. I'm looking at the contour line.
Yeah,
these
yeah,
contour
but
lines right now.
but somebody would have noticed that too, right?
Yeah, it's like, because basically, and the problem is if somebody didn't want to be noticed, because they said they were kind of on, and most of that is forest. On the one side that you could basically do it on is mostly forest, and the other side is basically almost a nine. Counting these contour lines, they're so close together. They're like, basically, it drops from like, it goes from 900 feet down to like 780 in less than what is that distance there? That is like, in about 128 feet. It drops like a little over 2,000 feet. It drops almost 2,000 feet, or like over 1,000 feet.
Wow.
That's a sharp drop. Like, that's not something somebody's
So-
gonna walk down.
So him being abducted up there is just the chances of it are really, really slim.
unless they're a really extreme rock climber, but because most of that's granite. They're granite walls too.
But another thing is a 2-year-old is going to scream like crazy if somebody just picks them up that they don't know.
Even if they do know you.
Well, yeah, in some cases, yeah. So there are the couple of the theories that are with this is that Dior was taken by an animal, like snatched up by a bear. I guess him and Yogi are basically having a picnic in a cave. He was abducted. Or when they went into town, that little Dior was actually sold for money. They were financially struggling. I don't see somebody selling their kid. I wouldn't be able to, as much as I wanted to sell you guys, I never could. And then obviously there's a whole cooler thing too. I completely forgot to bring this part up.
I was gonna tell you I was gonna tell you the natural bears around there is grizzly bears and black bears.
And they're probably so used to people being up there. When a bear gets used to having people around, they don't really attack.
Yeah.
Unless if it's a mama bear and she feels her cubs are threatened. But what I did forget was when Klein was on the case, he actually had found where there was, I don't know if it was him, the Lemmy Sheriff's Department, or the FBI, but somewhere along the line, allegedly they had found blood on the wheel well of Vernal's truck. So there might have been. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I just had to remember what a wheel well was for a second.
I was gonna say your dad's a mechanic, and he'd feel really bad if you didn't know what a wheel well was.
But wheel wells, if I think correctly, wheel wells are pretty easy to get a cut on.
Right.
Because they could be any, and 3-year-olds, or even young, a little older kids like to play with things. They're not supposed to.
You're not talking about any specific thing at all, are you?
Nope, not at all. I'm not talking about a fan.
Oh, not at all. So there was that, and then the reason I'm bringing that up is because Bob always carried a shovel in either his Blazer or in his camper.
Wait, why would? Especially being in that kind of. I have a shovel in my truck.
Right. I mean, sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. But you're throwing theories out there where they've got the shovel, a missing 2-year-old, a missing cooler, mom's reaction on a 911 call that would not be a typical mom reaction. I asked a couple of the moms at work. I didn't tell them what case I was doing. I just kind of said, hey, if your kid went missing and you had to call 911, how would you react? And they said I'd be in hysterics where the dispatchers have to tell me to calm down so they can understand what I'm saying. So there was all of that.
Have they taken LiDAR around the area?
What is that?
It is advanced digitalizing of the underground.
I don't know. I don't know if they've done that. I know they did helicopter searches with like advanced
basically
military crates.
Yeah, basically what I'm looking at right now of the
Yeah.
disturbances. But LiDAR can actually pick up things that have been buried for like over thousands of years, so it might make sense to take a LiDAR thing through it.
Yeah.
I know that I know the terrain is really difficult for it, but it might actually have a way to solve the case.
Maybe. It would be nice to.
Because if the theory is, if they did bury him, that might actually pick it up. Because the cooler is made out of plastic. That does not decompose it as fast as the body does.
Right.
It takes way longer.
Right.
And coolers can actually be air sealed, so The dogs
Exactly.
could probably find it.
True. That does make sense. That's actually a theory that's the first time I've heard that.
I just thought about it because it's something nobody, because a lot of people, like, it's ways that people are finding stuff about, like on what's happened to certain places that people didn't realize, like Oak Island and all that stuff.
Yeah. That's a very good theory. So there's really only one question that remains. What happened to Idaho's little man Dior Coons Jr. And if you're camping in the Timber Creek campground in Salmoncellos National Forest in Idaho, keep your eyes open. Okay, we're pretty much done. To look into, please email us at letstelltheirstory@gmail.com. We are on Facebook at Let's Tell Their Story, on Twitter at Quentin. What's our Twitter page?
That's a good question. What is the Twitter page? That is oh my god. I think it's Let's Tell Their Story. Give me 1 second. Twitter can be very mean, so it might not be the full name. Let's Their Story. It didn't let me have the whole name, so
Okay,
sorry.
Let's Their Story at Twitter. And I'm still working on an Instagram page. Now that I actually have access to the Gmail account, I should be able to get an Instagram page up.
The YouTube page will be uploaded with the last podcast that was split in two will be put in as one podcast on the YouTube channel if you listen to it on the YouTube channel.
And I think that's pretty much everything, right?
Yeah, I think there's nothing. If there is, like, even if you can give us any cases that you want. We're mostly doing United States cases right at the moment. We do know we do have some listeners from outside of the United States. If there's any cases you guys want us to cover, email us because we haven't been really doing much research on cases outside of the United States. I know we have one person that's from Australia that I do know Australia can have some really weird cases.
I wouldn't say they're weird. Actually, a lot of the podcasts I listen to, when it comes to the Australia ones, they're actually the really interesting ones.
That's why I said, like, the dingo actually did steal the baby.
I am so glad I did this case with you because I think if I would have done it by myself, I would have been crying and getting really, really mad through the whole thing.
I just still think it's nice that I went through without the train.